You're listening to the Renegade Blitz, the best podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz. I'm Ty Polk with Brandon Walker and Chris Ward, back with you to talk Steelers versus Seahawks, Sunday Night Football on NBC. And guys, let's talk about the injury front for the Steelers. We have 3 players in the 21-day window for IR, and that's Stephon Tuitt, Zach Banner, and Anthony McFarland. Right now, it seems like Tuitt had his first practices last week, so he's progressing. As we talk about this right now on Tuesday, it seems that Zach Banner is the closest to returning from that 21-day window. We'll probably see him after the bye week. And guys, I want to get your thoughts on the injury front. Who right now would be the biggest and maybe most important comeback for the Steelers?
Tuitt.
Yeah, definitely Tuitt.
Yeah, Tuitt, because he's going to make a difference with the run stopping and pass rushing, help TJ Watt out, help get 2 to 3, at least one person off of Cameron Hayward on the line. And when it comes to Zach Banner, I think Tuitt's coming along. I don't think you should start him just yet. Just go to the bench because he progressed last week. It doesn't seem like he did because I think he did give up a sack, but I think Banner isn't ready yet. He hasn't proven that he's the savior of the line. I think you should keep the offensive line as is, and McFarland is just like a third running back. Add a little bit depth just in case something happens to either Najee Harris or Snell. Is undoubtedly Tuitt.
Yeah, I agree with everything Brandon said. Definitely Tuitt. You know, they need him back big time. And then Banner, I'll just stick with the offensive line because they've been doing better the last 2 weeks. And Chuks Okorafor had a great game against Von Miller. So on the left side, Dan Moore Jr. He hasn't been doing all that bad either. So I don't think they should break what's the chemistry that they're building right now. I think Banner just if he does come back, just have him as a backup for now.
Stray away from you guys' path, it is correct, but I'm going to say that Anthony McFarland Jr. is a bigger comeback for the Steelers because spellbacks are important and they can still give Najee his touches and all that stuff, but Snell and McFarland and maybe Ballage, those guys should occasionally here and there get a few touches just to give Najee a break because I believe he didn't play as much toward the end of that Broncos game and probably you want him to be the closer in the future.
Agree. So he's more of the third down back, McFarland?
I'd say more or less you put Najee in there as the third down back, but McFarland could probably spell occasionally on a second and maybe if needed that third down as well. But you want to spread out the touches a little bit. Yes, Najee should get the bulk, but also those other guys like Ballage and also Snell, I want to see who can emerge as that second running back in the rotation.
Yeah, because his touches are going to pile up. It's starting to pile up because he had 22 carries, 24 touches last week. He had 14 catches. His catches and the runs between them. That's still a lot of carries that he's doing right now.
And now let's talk about this as well. The Steelers have signed Anthony Miller to the practice squad. Miller played for a spell with the Texans, and also he's primarily known for his time with the Bears, which he was in that wide receiver group with Allen Robinson, to name a few out there. But guys, it seems like this is more or less a wide receiver depth situation, and I think that you might see him if Cody White goes by the wayside, but other than that, I don't know if I really expect to see Miller out there much.
Yeah, we'll have to see how how long it takes him to learn the offense stuff. But from what I'm reading, he has pretty good speed and stuff, and he might be an asset in the slot there. But he was a second round pick by the Bears, so who knows what the Steelers can do with him.
I agree. I think he could be a nice 4th or 5th option receiver. At best. So, but he still has potential. He was in his 4th year in the league right now.
Yeah,
he's in his 4th year. He had productive seasons playing with Mitchell Trubisky. So I think he has a chance to contribute in the future. Let's see how much he comes up to speed.
But now it's time to talk about the spread this week for Steelers versus Seahawks. And right now, the point spread is kind of really been flip-flopped with the injury to Russell Wilson. The Seahawks opened as a 2.5-point road favorite to a 5-point underdog. And I want to get your take on that, Chris, because that's a little bit confusing for some of the audience and also myself.
You know, I guess the Seahawks opened as a 2-point road favorites on the look ahead line. So I guess maybe that's like a futuristic betting thing, like where they look in the future on who's going to be the favorite. But they with the Russell Wilson news, it dropped to, it was like at 4.5, or they started at 4.5, now it's at 5. So yeah, it just keeps on going down there with Geno Smith being the starter.
5 in favor for the Steelers?
Yeah, the Steelers are in favor right now.
Which means they're really a 2-point favorite. So it's like almost a field goal favorite if they take the account 3 points for being the home team. So it's still pretty close. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, you're right. You know, well, the Seahawks, they started as a 2. The Seahawks were originally the favorites, and then it switched over the last couple of weeks with the Seahawks news with Russell Wilson being out, and now the Steelers are 5-point favorites.
Well, we'll find out more about what these Seahawks are, especially with the injury to Wilson, with our next guest. And we like to welcome onto the podcast Michael Sean Dugar, who covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, Mike, both the Steelers and the Seahawks come in on 2 and 3 into this Sunday night football matchup, and it's a very pivotal game. But Russell Wilson, of course, is out with that broken finger, and veteran backup Geno Smith will fill in. I want to get your thoughts on Geno Smith's game last week, because I thought coming in off the bench cold, he did pretty well.
Yeah, no, Geno was good on Thursday. When I watched the tape of the game a couple of days later, I was like, oh, man, that dude was really doing his thing. He was going through his reads. He was accurate. He was trusting his legs. He was trusting his arm. He played really well against a defense that you could tell didn't view him as much of a threat at first. And then they started blitzing him and sending safeties and linebackers, and he just had a counter for everything. He looked very prepared, and he looked like a dude who was in year 9. Like he looked like a guy who said, I've seen a lot of things, so I know how to handle myself in a hostile situation. It helps they were at home, but still, man, down 2 scores on the road or primetime game like that, you ain't played meaningful ball in 3 years. That's tough. So I thought, considering the circumstances, Geno looked really, really, really good on Thursday night.
And what's been the word on Wilson's injury? Because I seen that broken finger, and it's like been there with my hands as well, done that, and it didn't look pretty at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, for everyone listening, watching, whatever it may be, please refrain from sending me any more mallet finger injuries, man. You got people tweeting me like, yo, look, Mike, I did that to my finger in high school. It's like, I didn't ask, man. Ain't nobody trying to see your crooked finger. That stuff was kind of throwing me off. But yeah, Russ is in a big, I don't want to say split. It looks like a club almost. So I imagine he'll be in that for a little bit. From what I've gathered, it looks like the target date to come back is week 10 or whatever week that is against the Packers. So they try to get through this game, the Saints game on Monday night next week, and then the Jaguars game back at home on Halloween, and then kind of reassess from there. I would imagine that Seattle views all 3 of those games as very winnable, even with Geno Smith under center, not just because of the opponents, but they feel like they have good players on the team, and that Geno doesn't have to be Superman for them to win games. So we'll see if that's true. I would kind of reject that notion, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Like, hey, Geno, Russ is out for at least a month. Hold down the fort, until he gets back.
And Mike, the Seahawks have a nice running back duo in Chris Carson and Alex Collins. Both are averaging over 4 yards per carry. Do you see the Seahawks trying to establish the run game against the Steelers with the 2 backs, especially with Wilson out? The Steelers have been vulnerable to give up big runs within their last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think both OCs have their work cut out for them and should try to be helping their quarterbacks this Sunday with the run game. mean, and getting the ball out fast too, but specifically with the run, the Steelers obviously invested heavy in it by taking Najee. The Seahawks have a coach who loves to establish the run. And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about Ben, but from afar, I'm like, that dude's arm looks washed. So I mean, like, you should be trying to help him out with the run, and then Geno, because he'll be starting on the road on prime time, and what will probably be another hostile environment. At least that's what it even felt like week 2 of 2019 when I came out there. So I think both OCs need to lean on the run game to help out their guys early, make sure they get in a rhythm, don't turn the ball over early so that they're feeling confident. And I think that'll help both guys, but definitely that's what the Seahawks are going to try to do on Sunday night.
Speaking of Ben, we've gotten into a little trouble around here talking about what you just said, but I digress. But anyway, the Seahawks have an impressive wide receiver duo with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Both are explosive players, and Metcalf is just a freaking nature. How do you see this combination matching up against the Steelers secondary?
I mean, they're a nightmare for a lot of secondaries. I mean, even if you got good players, DK Metcalf had a touchdown against Jalen Ramsey. He had a 24, 25-yard catch against Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen was the best in the biz. I mean, DK has had some really good individual matchups with Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Trevon Diggs, again, Jalen, Patrick Peterson, Arizona version, not so much the Minnesota one. But yeah, he's proven he can go toe to toe with with some of the best in the biz. I mean, he even had a good game in his second career regular season game against Pittsburgh in 2019. So I think I haven't studied much of the Steelers defense this week. I will later on, but I mean they should be preparing for some plays over the top. That's where DK is going to try to kill him. Tyler's been one of the best deep ball catchers since he's been in the league since 2015, and any defense that doesn't try to make sure that those guys have to beat you underneath is doing something wrong.
And let's talk about the Seahawks offensive line. There's been a lot. I remember just a little bit before the Super Bowl and after it, there was sort of a rumor that Russell Wilson wasn't happy with that offensive line, but how have they looked this year? Better.
Definitely better. They actually looked really good against the Rams. You watched the tape, and Russ took 2 sacks, but they were both on him. One of them was clearly on him. He's back there dancing forever. The second one is after he dislocates his finger or whatever, and he just kind of just scrambles in the pocket and then takes an L. But they held up really well. They gave us some QB hits, but that's to be expected when the other team has Aaron Donald. But it didn't look like it did the last time they played the Rams, which was they were getting their butts whooped last time. Last time Aaron Donald was just wreaking havoc, and Leonard Floyd was doing his thing, and then a bunch of dudes who ain't Aaron Donald was doing their thing, which is always a sign that your offensive line is playing like crap when the other dudes are killing you. So, I mean, so far they look pretty good. Dwayne Brown's looked solid as left tackle. Brandon Shell came back last week and has looked again solid as a right tackle, which has been a little bit of a surprise, I'm sure, for New York Jets fans. We're wondering where that was when he was with them prior to joining the Seahawks in 2020. So, yeah, they've been okay. They've been okay. I mean, they know they have another test coming up on Sunday night. But just like they were worried about it and handled themselves fairly well in the 2019 matchup, I would imagine them handling themselves pretty well in this one as well against a pass rush that probably isn't as scary as the 2019 one. I mean, you guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I remember them coming into that week 2 game thinking, no, Russ might die. And then they held their own after the game early on.
You're right there. They're without Stephon Tuitt right now, which is a big loss. And, they had Bud Dupree then, and now they have Alex Highsmith and Melvin Ingram, who have done well, but, they're not on that level as what Bud Dupree was back in 2019. But moving to the defensive side of the ball, the Seahawks have really struggled in run defense, ranking 31st in the league, allowing 145.2 yards per game. And then in pass defense, they rank 30th and are allowing 305.6 yards per game. What's going on with Seattle's defense so far this year?
Man, if you guys find out, let me know, okay? If you guys can figure out what's going on with the defense. That's tough. They're not good at anything right now. I mean, at least last year at this time, they were giving up a lot of yards passing and giving up a lot of points. They were really stout against the run, at least, save for like an Alex Madison outlier game in week 5 last year. But for the most part, they actually had something they were good at. And even towards the end of the year, they started to force more turnovers. They were forcing a lot of turnovers actually last year. That was kind of their thing. They couldn't force a punt to save their life. But boy, could they force a turnover. Their pass rush came on around week 9 of last year, maybe week 8. So they had things they were good at. Like, even if they weren't like a dominant defense, it was like, okay, we know we're at least going to be good at this thing, or a couple things. They don't got any of that right now. They don't force punts. They don't force turnovers. They're giving up first downs. They're bad on third down. I'm about mediocre on third down. I think the run defense is all about discipline and about your fits and your gaps, and guys are just not there. A lot of backside cutback stuff that's been killing them. Derrick Henry had some ones where he just makes a cut and then he's gone. But, I mean, he's doing that to everybody, to be fair. The pass defense is a huge lack of communication. It looks like guys yelling at each other after every play, after every big pass. Robert Woods, I'm pretty sure, ran the same route like 10 times on Thursday night and ended up with 150 yards receiving. He averaged 4.2 yards of separation, which is ridiculous. I mean, think about that. 4 yards away from the nearest dude. That's hard, man. That means you're just butt naked open. So they've got a lot of issues. They just cut the guy who started at cornerback for them. I think that was today. So that's Trey Flowers. They've got some issues, and I don't know if there's enough time to fix it all by Sunday, but they got to fix some of it. Otherwise, even if I think Big Ben's washed, like, I think he can get it done against a secondary that's been struggling.
On the defensive line, they got former Steeler Alex Woods at defensive tackle and Panoa Ford at the other defensive tackle position. Plus, they got Rasheem Green and former Bengal and AFC North foe Carlos Dunlap. How the Seahawks been up front, but do you see him getting it and improving?
It can't get much worse. Al's actually been really good. He's probably been one of the best defenders, man. Al's a big dude, man. Al's like probably 330, 340, athletic. Plays right there in the center of the defense. And if your center on offense is not like, if he's not like a thick, stout dude, man, Al's gonna back him into your quarterback, man. That's just how he kind of gets down. I think he played like middle linebacker in high school, which is crazy to think about. Like, because he was still like pushing like 300 back then too, like a huge dude. Al's been pretty solid. Puna Ford's a really underrated dude. Really, really solid defensive tackle. But their front could be better pass rusher, man. I think they're like 13th in total pressures, maybe 16th in sacks or something like that. Have like 10. They don't have one dude with more than one sack. That's Darrell Taylor, the second round pick from 2020. So they could definitely be better. They definitely could be a lot better, and they're going to need to be. Because I think the Steelers offense has weapons. Like I said, even though I've been kind of knocking on the quarterback for a little bit, they got weapons. Like, even with Juju on IR. So if they're not getting any pressure, they will get roasted.
And, well, at linebacker, the Seahawks still have one of, I think, the best linebackers in the league in Bobby Wagner, but he has two new linebackers on each side of him. He has Jordan Brooks and Darrell Taylor. They're missing KJ Wright, of course, who left in free agency for the Raiders. So how have the two linebackers alongside Bobby Wagner adjusted to the NFL, or at least have replaced the production at least?
It's hard to replace KJ, man. KJ was the only player in the league last year with double-digit tackles for loss and double-digit passes defense, man. That's hard. It's a lot of production for a linebacker. He was basically playing strong side linebacker. Seattle's now like a 3-4 team, like a lot of other teams around the league now. Jordan Brooks he's been okay. You could see the coverage stuff is a bit of an issue. Route recognition, not necessarily as strong as you'd like it to be for a first-round pick, which he was in 2020. Look at the Rams game. Look at the tape. You can see the Rams, their game plan. And some of this is including Bobby, too. Their plan was, let's put the linebackers in very compromising positions and attack the middle of the field. And it worked. Like I said, Robert Woods ran the same damn route like 10 times at 150 yards. That's absurd. And a lot of that is your underneath defenders, your nickels, your linebackers. So I think all of those guys, Bobby, Jordan, Darrell's more of like a rush in, like I said, 3-4 outside back. Consider him more like a Khalil Mack linebacker than a traditional like inside like Luke Kuechly or Bobby Wagner or something. But either way, their underneath guys got to be a lot better too, because when you're getting in the middle of the field, what's the coach supposed to do? Right? So I think Jordan can get better in pass coverage for sure. And Bobby's been okay. He just needs to help bring the young dude along.
And Mike, in the secondary, the Seahawks they're far removed from the Legion of Boom days, but they do have Jamal Adams at strong safety, who Mike Tomlin praised at his press conference today. At free safety, the Seahawks have Quandre Diggs, and the two starting cornerbacks are DJ Reed and Sidney Jones. What has been the main issue with the secondary?
Communication. It really has just been like guys don't seem to know what they're doing, which is as bad as it sounds, really. I mean, if you get out there and one guy calls this and you think it's that, and it's been really puzzling, honestly. Like they're getting beat on stuff that's like a simple cover 3, cover 2 beater, just stretching you out, vertically from the seam to the slot. Like I said, work in the middle of the field, which is supposed to be closed when you're in cover 3. Like they just have a lot of issues back there. They're doing some shuffling at cornerback. Like I said, they started the year with Trey Flowers. Cut him like today, benched him after week 3, because he basically was like, I don't know about this scheme, y'all. And then he never played again. So that goes. They thought that Killer Witherspoon would be their cornerback 1 entering the year, and I don't even think he's playing for Pittsburgh right now. So yeah, I think Keller's a good player though. I think very similar to Trey, that I think that those guys are learning a lesson that if you can't get on board with how things get down in Seattle, you get up out of here. That's just kind of how it goes. When the head coach oversees personnel and is a DB guy, you're a DB that's like, I don't know about this, Pete. It's like, well, I don't know about you. Get out. So, but I think they just need to get on the same page back there. You look at the good secondaries in the league right now. I mean, go watch like Arizona right now. Look how Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker and Byron Murphy are all playing really well together. They all look like they're on the same page. They ain't screaming at each other after every big explosive play. So the communication is just not there, and I don't think it's on any one particular guy. I think it goes much higher up the chain than that.
Real quick, with Witherspoon, it was basically just like not adjusting to the system.
I think so. I mean, Pete never said that explicitly, but I mean, he played fine in camp. Like, played fine. Like, yeah, give up some plays, and he had some plays, like just a normal quarterback. I got his hands on passes. Got beat on some things, but never looked like he didn't belong. So to ship him out of town for a 5th-round pick in the next century, I was like, oh, wait a minute, man, something's not hitting over there. So, I mean, Pete's never said it explicitly, but that's kind of like my conspiracy theory. It's like he must have not, that's not a word, he must have not picked up on the scheme, or maybe had some philosophical differences with the scheme or something. Because what I saw in training camp was a dude who can play cornerback in this league. To ship him out of town for chicken scratch, just does not add up. Especially, it's not like the Ravens. The Ravens were able to like cut Nigel Warrior, trade Sean Wade, because at the time they had dudes, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and another guy, I think Young, their slot dude. Like they had guys. They felt that their cornerback position had enough depth that guys were expendable. Seattle might hold open tryouts by the bye week for cornerbacks, so to ship Akello off and get nothing, who was your highest paid corner. That smells like it's more than just, he sucked, because it didn't suck. Like I watch him every day. He didn't suck. So something else must be going on there.
It's an interesting thing because Akello, I said this whenever they acquired him, he's probably the biggest corner the Steelers have had in a long time. Like 6'3" is basically playing safety out in the Steelers defense. So his length could be something interesting in the future, but that's just all I wanted to know more about.
He's got good feet too, man. He's got some good feet. Somebody sent me that clip when he got beat against the Raiders. I thought that was a weird play by whoever the safety was, probably Minka. Just like, I think he just came down on like Darren Waller, left Akello out to dry, and boom, like Ruggs had the big play. And it's just one of those that like, if you see it, it's like, oh man, what's the corner doing? And then you look at it again on the tape, and you're like, you probably thought he had some safety help. Now I don't even know if Akello's played since then. So it's weird. So, yeah, he hasn't, right? And that was like week whatever it was against the Raiders for the Steelers. So yeah, no,
week 2.
That's another thing. Yeah, it was week 2. So I mean, that seems like something's more than what meets the eye as well. Because I mean, I don't know if you watched that. I didn't watch the whole game, but like that play is like a good example of like the stuff that puzzles me about Akello. I mean, Trey Flowers out here was getting beat left and right, and never got really benched until he had something to say about the scheme. Meanwhile, Akello gave up a touchdown to DK Metcalf once and got benched. And they're like, well, I mean, DK does that. Like, he scores, like if every corner in the league got benched and they gave a touchdown to DK, there'd be no corners. Right? So I don't know, maybe it's something behind the scenes, maybe he doesn't get along with coaches. I don't know. But that dude in particular can play. It's got to be something else that's keeping him on the bench.
All right, who do you think is going to have a big game for Seattle this week? Who do you think needs to have a big game? And what is your biggest concern about the game on Sunday night?
Oh, well, Geno needs to have a big game because, boy, that's tough. Just starting on the road like that. I mean, he's done it before. I mean, he played in New York, right? And signed to Rock Nation. Like, he has to understand, like, bright lights. Like, he's not completely oblivious, but still, there's just something to be said for being in that moment. So I think in order for Seattle to win, Geno's got to have a big game. It doesn't really matter what which receivers play well. I think they'll get Gerald Everett back, your tight end. He's off the COVID list. So, I mean, I think he's got the weapons to have a good game. For Steelers, I've very clearly been if he can get it together, like I said, they got weapons out there. I think both quarterbacks got weapons. They got running backs. They got receivers. I don't know how the O-line situation is in Pittsburgh anymore, but I think they both are in a decent position to not go out there and look crappy. And if you can have the better quarterback in this game, I think that obviously gives your team the best chance to win. I don't know who will win, but it's very simple for me to say. I think the better quarterback is probably going to be the guy who wins the game.
And Mike, do you have a specific prediction for the game, or is it too early right now on Tuesday night?
No, I mean, whatever. I can always change it. But I think I'm trying to remember. I do our expert picks at The Athletic too, and so I make a pick on every game. I want to be consistent. I think I picked Seattle. I'm pretty sure I did. Let's go with that. I think I picked Seattle pretty close. I do think that. I think that Seattle is slightly better, but I'm not super confident. I mean, I think honestly, they have a quarterback who this system is kind of I don't know how to put this without insulting Geno Smith. The system's kind of it's there's a reason Jared Goff excelled in it, right? And guys like Kirk Cousins or even Matt Ryan's if you need the training wheels, so to speak, you can get down in this offense. Right, because it's asking you to make a read, throw it. Right, it's all Jared Goff did. They went to the damn Super Bowl in 2018. Right, so in 2017 he was lighting it up too. I mean, even last year Jared Goff stunk, and they had a top 15 offense. So I think if you don't need to be Superman in this offense, and Geno is still an athletic dude with a strong arm who's pretty experienced. So I would imagine him. Like I said, the quarterback that wins or that plays the best is probably going to win. I could see him playing better. I could. And I think that's probably what will happen as long as the Seahawks don't lose the turnover battle. Turn it over too much on the road, prime time, against a defensive playmakers, you're going to lose. But protect the ball, make some throws, come out with a W.
I want to elaborate on it. I mentioned a little bit earlier with Russell Wilson's, transgressions with at least some of the offensive calls for Seattle. Do you think he's still the Seahawks quarterback next year?
I hope so, man. He's good for business. I don't want to cover anybody else, man. People stop caring about your team when the quarterback ain't relevant. So I would hope so. But, I mean, I can't feel confident about it just because it's a problem. It's a problem when you have a defensive-minded head coach who's a defensive guy to defensive back at Pacific College or whatever. He's kind of hung his hat on running the football and playing good defense, has made all these expensive moves on defense to mask drafting poorly on defense. And then your defense stinks. But if you're Russ, you're look, if the thing that this team is good at is having me, what do I need to be here for? That's a fair question if you're Russ. I mean, he may not see it that way, but his beef last year in the offseason, which I wrote about in The Athletic, that tells me he's at least thought about it. It's well, damn, if we're just going to have the 30th ranked defense, I can do that anywhere. Why do I need to be here in particular to, have a crappy defense and I got to be Superman for us to just go 500, right? So if Russell Wilson comes back, plays well, which he was playing well when he got hurt, and the defense is still not good, it's just why stick around for this kid? I can see that reasoning in his head. So I would like to think he's the quarterback next year because he's good for business. But I mean, if things go the way they're going now, I can see Russ being for who? For what? Why do this? Why don't I try to go somewhere else where the defense isn't the thing bringing me down.
Who do you think he would go to? Here in Pittsburgh, we're all hands on deck with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, really? Are you?
Everyone.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why Aaron would do that though. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like before all these injuries, Denver was a decent spot for Aaron. That made a lot of sense. He'd want somewhere that's going to treat him like Brady. I mean, it would almost be like how LeBron did all those visits in 2010, like met with the Knicks and met with whoever else before signing with the Heat. You know, it was like autonomy almost. Like, hey man, like show me how much control you're going to give me to make this thing right. I think when LeBron signed with the Heat in 2010, they had like 4 dudes on the roster, right? Like, kind of let him pick and choose and fill it out. And Tom Brady gets down to Florida, and it's like, all right, I'm going this dude. All right, call Gronk. Get him off the golf course. I want Gronk. You know, like I want Leonard Fournette or whoever. Yeah, man, he might have been there already, but you get my point. Like he was calling the shots. Russ wants that. Russ wants to be like, if I want this dude, let's get this dude. If I want this guy, let's get this guy, you know. Tom Brady made the call, got Richard Sherman, you know. So I think whatever team treats him like that, obviously the roster matters and, you know, some coaching and things like that. But ultimately, like, he just wants some control, you know. Whichever team gives it to him is probably going to be the team that gets him in 2022. As long as they're not like in the NFC West, right? Seahawks ain't stupid. So an AFC team, preferably, who will give up all that? Perhaps.
We had your colleague, Deshaun Reed from The Athletic, calling a couple weeks ago, asked about the John Gruden situation and see what he was learning about the situation to his racist email. Everything came out. He resigned. How do you feel, so as somebody who covers the NFL, about the John Gruden's downfall and how that came about?
John, a couple things. John Gruden is a symptom of a much larger toxic NFL culture, which you can also, like on a more macro level, like extrapolate to society at large. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, John Gruden is a middle-aged white dude who said some racist, homophobic, and sexist stuff to his homies behind closed doors, got caught, and lost his job. You can apply that to any business. You can apply that to Fortune 500, stock market, tech, whatever. You know, like it's not unfathomable. Like, oh, white dude to some racist behind closed doors to other white buddy. Well, yeah, it's kind of how America works, right? So. I think while right now the focus is on John Gruden specifically, we could take this conversation to a much larger level. And I think we should. I think that's how we should advance the convo.
I have a follow-up question. How do you think that it should be there's another person that's like highly implicated as well, and and he's getting swept under the rug. His name is Washington football team owner Daniel Snyder. Do you think he should be able to, you think the league should force him to sell his team over this situation if they come out with those leaky emails?
I think in general, Dan Snyder still being able to own that team is a really strong argument that cancel culture does not actually exist. Because, boy, there's a lot of reasons to cancel Dan Snyder and the Washington football team, from having a racist name to how they've treated women in that organization for a very, very long time. I mean, even in the John Gruden thing, y'all out here exchanging pictures of the cheerleaders with the boobs out. What's wrong with y'all, man? Like, I'd get them out of the paint just for that. I know there's some logistics in like forcing someone to sell a team, but hell, Adam Silver figured that out real fast over there. So call Adam, see how he got Donald Sterling up out of there. Donald, who honestly, for what they got him out of there for, wasn't even like that bad, you know, like compared to some of the other stuff he was doing with like housing discrimination, right? So if you can get Donald up out of the paint for telling his girl to stay away from Magic, you should definitely be able to get Dan Snyder about the paint for basically like pimping out his cheerleaders on like a cruise or whatever those nasty dudes were doing over there.
And Mike, I know Super Bowl 40 was like almost nearly 20 years ago now. It's 16.
Oh boy, we got to Super Bowl 40. Yikes!
But I was wondering, do Seahawks fans still talk about that, or is that kind of just
yes? I'm still in fantasy football groups. Like, I'm from Seattle, so I'm in fantasy football groups with Seattle people who won't draft Brady, who won't draft Big Ben, who do not refer to Big Ben as Big Ben. I will not going to say what they refer to him as, but you guys can probably figure it out. Like, nah, Big Ben is a no-go. The Steelers are a no-go. The Patriots on that list too, because Super Bowl 49. So yeah, no, it's a, you know how they go like never forget with 9/11. It's a never forget over here in Seattle when it comes to Super Bowl 40. And that's not going to change, man. That hurt. That game, I was only like 13 when it happened, but yeah, man, that's people ain't forgetting about that, and that will definitely be. Don't you? I feel like when I was there in 2019, they showed Super Bowl 40 highlights like before kickoff, and I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
The follow-up question is: should they have ran the ball? And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, Super Bowl 49. Probably. I don't mind throwing the ball on the goal line. The one I don't think it's that bad. Throwing it over the middle is for sure. Just because I feel like when you play the odds, the number of bad outcomes that can possibly be produced by a throw over the middle on the goal line with so many bodies is a lot higher. Whereas if you like throw like a goal line fade to Doug Baldwin or something like that, it's just him versus the corner, right? Like it's probably going to get knocked down or overthrown, or you get a PI, you know. But yeah, I probably would have ran it, but I don't think throwing on the goal line is inherently bad. I do think throwing over the middle was unnecessarily risky. And honestly, I probably just did a damn QB sneak and won the game. And then, you know, just went back-to-back champs. But that's another thing that's just never going to be forgotten is Pete Carroll's decision to throw the ball. And Russ's decision to throw it to the team. You know, like, you can pick. You're not supposed to do that, you know, especially not in the damn Super Bowl. So, no, those are two. Super Bowl 49 and Super Bowl 40 will never be forgotten. Okay, for two different reasons, but very, very dark moments in Seattle sports history for sure.
Not even the Supersonics? Wow.
Not even that? So,
well, I mean, we were like, what? I wasn't even born when the Sonics won in 1979. Well, you know what? It's Tuesday. I think actually the Seattle Kraken start their season.
Yeah, so
tonight,
a little over an hour. I'm not a hockey guy, but I am today. So I'm going to jump in on that. We're moving on to hockey now around here until we get the Sonics back.
That was Michael Sean Dugar. He covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. And Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, guys. So now we know more about the Seahawks thanks to Michael Sean Dugar at The Athletic. And Chris, I want to know, what is the over-under before we get into our predictions?
The over and under for the game is 42.5 points. You know, just other stats that from courtesy of OddsShark. The Seahawks are 8-4 against the spread in their last 12 games against the Steelers, and the total has gone under in 6 of Seattle's last 7 games on the road. Seattle is 34-10 and won straight up in its last 45 primetime games, and Pittsburgh is 1-8 against the spread in its last 9 Sunday night football games. Seattle is also 12-5 against the spread in its last 17 games as an underdog.
All right, so with that news and the talks about the Seahawks defense not being the Legion of Boom as we all known them so well in the mid-2010s and beyond from there, I'm going to say that the Steelers get another confidence booster going into the bye, and I'm going to say that this game will go a final of 24-17. So I'm going to say they're just under the over-under.
Yeah, I'm having a real difficult time with this game because, like, I feel like it could go either way. Geno Smith, that quarterback, I could see him, like, throwing a couple bad passes or, like, maybe a pick six from Minkah Fitzpatrick. I guess that's my, like, bold prediction, if you want to call that, for this week. I think that might happen. But at the same time, I like the Steelers. You know, Geno Smith didn't do that bad against the Rams on Thursday Night Football, and I just don't know if the Seahawks. I mean, I just don't know if the Steelers could keep it up with their run game. I know Seattle's been terrible at stopping the run, so I'm not really too sure of this pick, but I want to say that Seattle beats them in a close one. I want to say 26-23 field goal.
See, a little bit more high scoring than we think. I think it's going to be over. I think it's going to be a field goal game. It's going to come down to who wins the turnover battle. If a couple of those turnovers go Seattle's way, they will win this game, because we did say last time that Ben threw what could have been 3 interceptions. I say Ben plays careful. I think even though we've been bashing him, he is, I think, still a better quarterback than Geno Smith. And I think that's the difference. I said field goal. I'll say 24-20 Pittsburgh.
All right, so Chris basically tipped his hand that he believes that Minkah Fitzpatrick will be the breakout player for the Steelers in this game, and I actually agree. This feels like this is a Minkah Fitzpatrick game, especially with a backup quarterback. And while, yes, Geno Smith did really well, and I think that last interception that sealed it against the Rams was not his fault, I think that this is the type of game that you want. The Steelers had a get-right game last week. I believe that this is a get-right game for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm going to say he gets an interception.
This is a tough one for me. Who's going to be the breakout player? I feel it's going to be Highsmith this week. I think this is the game where he's going to take advantage of a older left tackle, Dwayne Brown, and having a Geno Smith as a quarterback. He's mobile, but he's not as mobile as Russell Wilson. I think I see him getting a sack or two in this ball game. He'll have a breakout performance, and we're going to see what I saw in preseason when I went up to camp.
I'll go with the offensive side of the ball, and I'll go with Chase Claypool. I think he'll build off his performance he had against Denver with 5 receptions for 130 yards and a touchdown. I think him and Johnson actually should do well against this Seattle secondary, and who knows, maybe Najee Harris puts up another 100-yard rushing performance. But I feel like Seattle, they're really going to key in on stopping Harris this week. So that's what my main concern is, why I picked against the Steelers, because I don't know if they'll have as much success as they did last week against Denver. So that's why I had Seattle winning close. I think Geno Smith is really the wild card. I really don't know how he's going to perform. I could see him making some really bad plays or whatever, and the Steelers actually end up routing the Seahawks late in the game and win by maybe over 10 points. I mentioned the Fitzpatrick pick 6 or something like that, but at the same time, he could also play well and pick them apart late in the game like Bridgewater did. So this game's really, it's like a toss me up type of game for me.
Question, Chris. If they somehow the Seahawks win this game with Russell Wilson being out at home, would you consider this a Tomlin special?
I don't know. I think they're too bad right now to consider it Tomlin special. I think Geno Smith being the backup there for this game is. I just wouldn't be surprised if they won. You know what I mean?
Right.
As Mike mentioned that he did well against the Rams, and they protected well the offensive line for the Seahawks, and that was against a Rams front that has Aaron Donald. So you definitely can't overlook the Seahawks team, who has 2 running backs that average over 4 yards per carry. Also,
we want to thank some of you guys out there that managed to ask us a couple questions out there. An honest, unbiased Steelers fan at Hyped Steelers 7. They asked, will James Washington play in the slot primarily like Juju, or will they have Claypool take that spot more and have Washington outside? And that's a good question. Well, the Broncos game kind of proved that Claypool can also do some things in the slot, and maybe he can handle those mid-range catches, and they don't have to just throw bombs to him all day. So I say that it's going to be a mix. I think we'll see Claypool in the slot. We'll also see Washington in the slot as well. I think they'll mix it up this time because Juju commanded so much in the slot, and that's where he was best at. And now the Steelers are just trying to figure out what everyone can do right now.
Yeah, I think, Claypool, he scored that touchdown when he was in the slot, and he also had that 59-yard catch and run. He was lined up in the slot as well. So I could definitely see Claypool lined up there a little bit more. But as you mentioned, Ty, that it's probably going to be a little bit of a mix. But Washington definitely needs to step up. I'd like to see him make some explosive plays. He has great hands and stuff. So, he does have some good breakaway speed. So I would like to see him give some explosive plays.
Yeah, I think he's a smooth player. Washington, I think he'd be better in the slot. Claypool is great in the slot too, but I would have him on the outside, especially in the red zone, getting those 6'5" jump balls. I think that's the best way that you can utilize him. But having him in the slot isn't a bad decision either, with his run after catchability and his big body and his power.
And we'll continue the discussion with this. Little Photosynthesis at Little Photosynth 3 asked us if the Steelers will Juju out for the season, try to roll out more opportunities for the tight end unit, or keep the usage of the wide receivers the same and just shed the opportunity on lesser used receivers like Cody White and James Washington. There's one thing that the Steelers did in this game with the Broncos that it's kind of been lost in the sauce of everything. They used all of their tight ends in that game. They had, I believe, was it Gentry, Ebron, and Freiermuth that each had an opportunity to make a catch out there and did make a catch?
Yes, they did. I said as the year goes along, he's going to be in the offense. I said at the beginning on our first free recap, he is going to be the third best pass catcher on the team. I think he's going to be a bigger offense now that Juju's out. So I see an opportunity to be in a red zone threat, getting the ball on third downs. I've been a big fan of him since training camp. He's shown great improvement. So I'm expecting results to come.
Yeah, you mentioned that you thought he was going to be third in receiving yards over Juju, which, looks like, unfortunately for Juju, he's out for the season now with a dislocated shoulder, just 5 games in. But, Gentry, he caught that screen pass. So I believe it went for 13 yards, so that was good to see.
Yeah, the rare tight end screen. That was certainly something that I wasn't expecting. And also, Brandon, I want to congratulate you on being the best kind of right in this situation. Technically right.
Technically. But I just take risk on my opinions, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But I was right this time.
And also, the last question we'll have is Moonphase at Moonphase Toys. He asks, why did the Steelers trade a pick for Witherspoon yet never dress him? Why was Carl Joseph elevated for one game yet got no snaps in a sub package? Plus, why do they keep moving TJ around the line? So really, this is like why did the Steelers trade a pick for Witherspoon yet never dress him? I think it was more potential, and you'll see in the interview we have with Michael Sean Dugar that they'll talk about Witherspoon and his impact with the Seattle defense and why that trade came to pass. And Carl Joseph, I believe they went. That is a good question with the sub package, but I think it's a lot different because remember, Trey Norwood is still out there as a safety corner hybrid, and I think there was just too many cooks out there, even though that the Steelers probably are going to use him somehow in the future in situations. Maybe they'll try to use it in a way to get one of Minka or Terrell Edmonds going out there in different positions, because I think the Steelers right now in pass coverage are just going to try to throw everything at the wall and see if it sticks. And at least for TJ around the line, the best thing to do with a linebacker, especially in TJ's style, is to try to move him around. And plus, the Steelers use their linebackers in a rotation anyway. So the best thing to do in this situation, especially with a guy like Highsmith, who's a little bit unproven, he's in his second year, and Ingram, while he has shown a couple of great pass rushing moves, though I think he was also a little bit of a mover around there, even with the Bills, with how he did. So I think that helps him out the best as well.
As for the first question, well, number one, I don't know. I don't know why they would give up a fifth-round draft pick and not dress him. That's a waste of a draft pick that you could use, a waste of an asset. And you benched him over getting burnt, and some of it might not even be his fault because Minka Fitzpatrick wasn't where he was supposed to be.
At least with Carl Joseph elevated in one game, no snaps even in a sub package.
Okay, why didn't he get? Because you got to get acclimated to the defense. He came from Oakland, correct? Oh, Las Vegas.
And he was signed. He was signed away from Cincinnati. Las Vegas. They released him in training camp.
Okay. Well, he signed away from Cincinnati. He might not even be all that good. He's a first-round flop. So, but he still has enough talent to stick around and be a backup. You just gotta be eligible to do what you need to do and produce. And plus, you still got two starting caliber safeties, and you still got Trey Norwood, as you said, that it's like too many people in the lineup. It's going to be a logjam there. So as for what, you got to use them. You got to get them. You're a dominant player like Lott. You got to play him at middle linebacker, outside linebacker. You put him on the defensive line. you have to move him around, make sure where's Waldo. It's all about the scheme. The best players get moved around. You can't stay in one particular spot. That's how you just can't keep him in one spot.
I think you guys covered it pretty well on that question there. But I want to add one more because I always like helping out Steeler fans. They DM us sometimes about places to go when they visit to Pittsburgh. And we got one from Eduardo. He asked, what places do you recommend for a Pittsburgh visit besides Heinz Field? I'm from Mexico. And now that I'm vaccinated, I'm planning a trip. Restaurants, landmarks, monuments, sport events, everything is welcome. Yeah, there's a lot of great things in Pittsburgh, I'll say. Besides Heinz Field, I think the Strip District, if you're a Steelers fan, there's a lot of shops down there. The original Primanti Brothers is also there. It's a good spot to go to. I also like Point State Park. I think it's a nice view of the city. Also on Mount Washington, that's another nice view. How about Ty's a Pittsburgh? He's a Pittsburgher, so maybe he'll have more to add to that.
Well, you kind of touched on most of it, but I'd say visiting Mount Washington also. That's one thing. Of course, you can also. I'm pretty sure you're probably going to be driving in there because if you're coming from Mexico, you're going to have the airport, so you get to see perhaps the best view of a city skyline coming in off the bridge. What else? Going to the Strip District, I might add the waterfront near where I'm from. That has a nice shopping area. Of course, there's a lot of Steelers memorabilia places. So in addition, you can go inside Heinz Field. Hope to see you there also as well. And monuments as well. You're going to be right next to PNC Park. And so, of course, you could see those things as well. Also, the Coca-Cola Great Hall inside Heinz Field is another place you should go to. Great music venue. Stage AE is solid. You can go. City Works and Market Square is a good sports bar to go to. If you can't go to the Steeler game, that's a good place to watch a Steeler game. If you don't want to be on the Heinz Field in the North Shore, being out around the tailgate, nice spot, great food. You can have August Wilson Center. That's the one if you want to go see about some culture. And y'all covered everything else. Oh, also basically just about any bar here in Pittsburgh is kind of cheap compared to most other places. So if you'd like to go to the South Side, you can. There's also Oakland, and also Bloomfield as well for the bar scene. You want to get a few brews or something like that. But yeah, there's plenty to do in Pittsburgh. Also, just be sure to ask around because there's a lot of friendly people in Pittsburgh that can take you to the best spots. Also, you can go to Pamela's for breakfast.
Definitely. It's a great city. It's a small town masquerading as a city, but it's a great city to be a part of.
We'll see what happens as this is the Sunday Night Football game, 8:15 on NBC. And also, I want to tell you guys that I will be in the building for that one, and I am so excited to see a night game at Heinz Field.
Oh, you're going? Nice. Hopefully you ended up not going to that Week 3 Bengals game, which is good. So hopefully this game ends up as a win for the Steelers.
So they win 3-3 going to the bye, and they play Cleveland coming up after the bye. So that is going to be an important matchup. It looks better. It might look better than a couple of weeks ago. More hopeful.
Well, we'll find out what happens there. So next week we'll have our recap podcast, and then during the bye week we'll have a podcast talking about the Steelers season so far, and as it's been up and down, so we'll talk about that then. And that's all for us. For Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz. Be sure to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to us wherever else you can get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.